My name is Paul Allison. Paul, traditional spelling, P-A-U-L, Allison, A-L-L-I-S-O-N. And I have no reason to choose a title for the video. Oh, excuse me. Friend, counselor.
Oh, very good. Okay. So, tell me how you first met Walt.
I'm a lawyer, and Walt is a developer, and he was working on his Rock Point project, and he needed documentation to establish easements throughout the project. So he did his homework, he did research at the courthouse, reviewed I don't know how many examples of somewhat comparable documentation, read what I had done at another project out on North Division, thought it looked pretty good, called me, and as the old saying goes, the rest is history. And that was, I don't know, give or take 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit about him when you first met him, and what did you think of him?
Oh, he's an outstanding fellow, very energetic, very imaginative, knowledgeable about construction and property development.
What has he done for Spokane in your view?
Well, a tremendous amount. He started out rehabilitating rundown houses, and he came here in the Air Force Survival School, and I don't know exactly when relative to that. He started on houses, then he started on commercial buildings, and then he sort of specialized in taking supermarkets that had been that had ceased to be functioning as supermarkets and converted them into office buildings. And then he did Rock Point. He converted the old Coca-Cola plant on Monroe near the courthouse into an office building, several others. Created some mini storage, some office buildings from scratch. The biggest project was Rock Point. And of course, to say the obvious, the most dramatic project was the Davenport Hotel. And if you interview him, he will undoubtedly tell you that when he called me and said he was going to do that, I told him he was crazy. But I could do that because we're well acquainted. But despite that, we went ahead, and inside of, I think it was inside of about 2 weeks, the deal was a done deal. And he had technically purchased half of it and leased half of it with an option to purchase it. And technically he hadn't purchased anything. He'd exchanged it for other properties that he owned, and then exchanged other properties for the second half, and went ahead with the demolition and the rehabilitation. And what we have is the Davenport Hotel in all its glory.
What would have happened if Walt hadn't stepped in and saved the Davenport, to the Davenport?
I think the odds were against its survival. Several other people had taken a hard look at it. One of the reasons I told him that I didn't think it was a good project was because I had talked with other people who had looked at it and who had made estimates of what it would cost to rehabilitate it, and it was just absolutely horrendous in cost. And it was with that background that I told him that I didn't think it was a viable project. But he had his eyes on the Davenport for a long time. It was something he really wanted to do, and he did it.
What did he do different that the other people didn't do? How did he make it successful?
Well, he has a lot of imagination when it comes to construction and to rehabilitation of properties. I don't know what others would have done. I know what he did, which was took his equipment up floor by floor, absolutely gutted the floors, from the outside walls, leaving only the structural members, and except for the lobby and the second floor where the executive offices are now, and some meeting rooms, and of course the Marie Antoinette, Isabella, etc. And his treatment of the Hall of Doges was fantastic. You may recall what he did. Cut it out from about waist high, picked it up with huge cranes, moved it across the street, wrapped it up until he was ready to put it back in, and then resurrected it in the reconstructed building where the Pennington was.
What do you think Spokane would be like today if Walt hadn't taken on Davenport? What do you think the downtown area would be like?
It's hard to say. If he hadn't, someone else might have done something dramatic that would have kicked it off, and they might not have. And I think the odds are that eventually someone would have. Who knows? They might have demoed the Davenport and built a beautiful building where it is, but that'd be strictly speculation. Whatever, I think it would have taken a lot longer for Spokane to get where it is if he hadn't done what he did. And when I say he, it's Walt and Karen. It's not just Walt. They're a team.
Tell me about Karen. When was your first? Did you meet them both at the same time?
Well, I met Walt sometime before I met Karen. I don't remember what the time lag was, but it wasn't very long before we became acquainted. One of my earlier memories of both of them is at a Christmas party at Rock Point, which they stopped doing because of potential liability, but they were both there and we visited there. That was quite some time ago.
Mm-hmm. So on a personal level, what can you tell me about the both of them?
Oh, they're just great people. They have a great sense of color, decoration, acoustics, history. And for Walt, I'll say he has a great love of automobiles. Just loves beautiful automobiles. And I vividly recall one time when he was driving a Jaguar convertible that was, let's see, eggplant color. It's just sort of a real deep purple. And I asked him if I could drive it home and tell my wife I just bought it, and he said, sure. But I didn't. And then there's Karen likes cars too. And there's a neat story about a couple of the girls in the office. I won't identify them, but one of them said to the other, poor Karen, every morning she has to decide whether to drive the Jaguar or the Lexus. So they like cars. They like nice things, and they do wonderful things.
Yeah. What is your favorite memory of them?
Oh golly, I don't know as I could. If I'd been told in advance to come up with something, I might have been able to. But no, it's been so many things over so many years. I don't think I could pull out one specific.
So you're very good friends with both of them? Or
I think so. That's my impression. I believe it's shared.
Very good. Tell me a little bit more about what I'm looking for is, I truly believe that Davenport has changed all of downtown Spokane, and I think
I agree.
cool. And I'd like to hear more from you about what kind of revitalization that's done for the whole city, and what it's done to help this city grow.
Well, that part of town has changed dramatically with the improvement of the Davenport. It's become a focal point. The Davenport was one of the sponsors of the recent ice capades, our ice competition, figure skating competition here. It has unquestionably inspired others to do things that they very likely wouldn't have done but for the Davenport. It's been a boon to Northwest Bedding, which advertises its mattresses. I sleep on one of them at home that says the Davenport. And I think there have to be a lot of people who sleep on them either at the Davenport or at home. But they make the mattresses for the Davenport, and they're very good mattresses. So that's been a nice thing for Spokane, and for Northwest Bedding, and for the Davenport.
So who had the vision came from Karen or from Walt of the Davenport? Was it a shared passion?
I think it was mostly Walt, but it soon became shared as they got into it. Walt had sort of a dream of doing the Davenport, which he hadn't shared with me until the day that he called me up and told me that he had a verbal deal to acquire it, and sort of gave me a rough outline of what he had in mind, and then together we structured the transaction.
Why are Walt and Karen worthy of becoming being inducted into the Hall of Fame for Junior Achievement?
Goodness me, because of the outstanding things that they have done in the city of Spokane, because of what wonderful people they are, because of how they have stimulated business in the city of Spokane, how they have attracted business to the city of Spokane, how they have together revitalized a major segment of the city and provided a link with the history of the city and an attraction that has brought in many people and businesses and activities, and I just can't think of anyone more deserving.
I think we got it.
He was also a friend and client, more friend than client, but because he did things, but not as dramatic as what Walt and Karen did, and I had the pleasure of being at his induction and at his table when he was inducted into the Junior Achievement Hall of whatever.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
What you wanted to say that you were thinking about?
Well, sure. I think that Walt has three really important characteristics. Probably more than that, but he's a very good judge of people, and he's very good at construction, and he's very good at numbers, and he's especially good at numbers if they have either dollar signs in front of them or square feet indicators after them. And he is not afraid to take risks, and he makes decisions, and three of his best decisions were Rock Point, the Davenport, and Mary and Karen. Okay?
That's very good. That's very good. Anything else?
That'll do.
That'll do. I'm going to have you say directly to the camera now. Is
Okay. Walt and Karen, in my view, are two of the...
This is, and whenever you're ready.
Walt and Karen, I think you know how I feel about you. I think you're a couple of the best friends I've ever had. I've enjoyed working with you. I'd do anything I could to help you in any activity, any aspect of business or life. And I cherish our memory, my memory of our activities together. Thank you.